All right, I'm showing 1 minute after. We'll go ahead and get started. First, I want to say hello. I hope everyone's having a good day. And we are here to talk about generating revenue through streaming. First, just a couple housekeeping tips. There is a ask a question Q&A button, if you notice, either on the bottom or top of your screen. You can click that at any time and ask any questions you have, or you can wait till the end and ask your questions then. I definitely suggest asking your questions as you have the questions so you don't forget. Next, today, we have myself. I am the Director of Product and Development here at Presto Sports. And we have Chris Sapp. He is our product owner for Presto Stream. If you stream with us now, you definitely know Chris. You probably talked to him before, so you're already familiar with him. And he will be doing most of the talking today on the new, some of the new features and also generating revenue through streaming. All right, today we're going to explore a few things. We're going to be talking about geo-blocking, which is a new feature we have to where you can self-manage. We will be talking about the new pay-per-view management system we have to where you can also manage. You no longer have to reach out to support to try to make your tickets and your season passes and things like that. We're going to discuss integrating pre-roll videos, commercials, overlays. We are going to be talking about creating and including valuable ads throughout your events. And with that, we are going to talk about our new streaming playbook that we are going to give to our customers to where they can see exactly where to put the ads. A great asset when you're trying to figure out, how many ads to sell, how long the ads go for, things like that. And Chris will go into that in detail. First, before we get started, I'd like to have a quick poll on who you use for streaming now. So we'll give you a minute or two to answer that. All right. All right. I am going to hand it over to Chris and let him get started.
Thank you, Josh. Go ahead and there we go. So you guys may have even seen this slide before, Presto Stream at a glance. I also want to mention that Josh said that if you stream with us, you probably met me before. Part of that's because I did actually work in stream support for about 3 years or so, and I've been on the product team now for a little over a year, working specifically with streaming products. Puts me in a unique position where I've watched a lot of streams, probably hopefully more than everyone on this call combined, because that was my job for a long time. So I've seen a lot of these examples play out, and I've had discussions with people about these topics. So am I an expert? Absolutely not. I would not call myself an expert because I don't actually do the job, and a lot of you guys do. I'm hoping to be able to get inspiration from a lot of the people that I've spoken with that do this well, that generate a lot of revenue by having a solid stream and having it be a part of the backbone. Share it with you guys, and hopefully you can find a thing or two to add. I think incremental growth is huge with streaming. Media of any kind benefits from that, so that's kind of why we're all here today. So hopefully just garner a little inspiration and catapult that into something actionable that you guys can use right away. Presto Stream at a glance. So this is our streaming platform here. It's a fully featured platform for sharing your streams with your audience. We offer free to view, pay-per-view, and also free to view with registration, which means that you can still collect, let's say, an email address. They still sign up for a streaming account, so we can kind of keep track of what they are watching, which is nice. So you get a little more information, even though it's free. Our streams are offered in a browser, mobile browser, tablets, if you want to go back to the last slide real quick. OTT apps like Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, Android TV, like my Google Chromecast. That's usually what I watch on. We do have a support staff for streaming that are available on game day for support. They're also available. You could schedule testing or do it on an off day where you don't have a game. And we do handle viewer support as well, including refunds. So last thing I want to say is it's not on here, but our production software, Presto Stream Studio, is also included when you have streaming with us. That's going to be kind of a backbone item here, something that you're going to use to accomplish a lot of these tasks that we're talking about here. Okay. All right, so you may or may not be familiar with geo-blocking. Geo-blocking or geo-restrictions are controls that can detect location within a browser, on a computer, mobile device, or a tablet, and they can restrict access to the content, like a video, based on those rules that are in place, such as block the United States, block Canada. Those are kind of like just the simplest rules that you can have. So we had a product enhancement for this, and it does generate revenue, so we wanted to talk about it a little bit. Some streaming platforms that you may or may not be familiar with are only viewable inside the United States. So if a company, or I'm sorry, if an organization signs with one of these companies for a United States distribution deal, that leaves the international audience without a stream. So we do have a service where we can geo-block the United States and offer those streams to people in Canada or other countries around the world. Basically anyone that has an internet connection can jump on and watch. Right now we have a decent group of leagues and conferences that use this service to increase their footprint internationally, allowing those viewers to watch, and or they're retaining thousands of dollars in revenue by charging pay-per-view for that access. So if they didn't have this in place, like I'm sure a lot of people don't, then they're just throwing that money away. And of course, we don't want to do that. And we still want to highlight our sponsors. So we have a pretty good system in place for that with a good track record. We've just updated this system to give you a little bit more control. And there's even more updates coming. But just wanted to kind of highlight that as a good thing that's actually becoming more popular right now. Sounds like old technology, but it's definitely new again. Okay, Josh. So the elephant in the room is pay-per-view. The big question with any streaming organization is, do I want to charge pay-per-view or not? So part of what we want to talk about is some of the updates that we've made that you may or may not be aware of, what's coming up on the roadmap, and then some of the whys here. So even if you're utilizing sponsorship revenue, you can still consider pay-per-view streaming. A lot of people do it. A lot of times sponsorships, ads, commercials don't actually get in the way of the product. If anything, they're filling dead air. So it's not an either or scenario, pay-per-view or free, sponsorships or pay-per-view, like you want to kind of consider it amongst your main goals as streamers. So updates. Pay-per-view clients can now control their own pricing. So this is new. We had a lot of conversations with pay-per-view clients in the last few years. We decided this year to actually put those controls into your hands as opposed to solely in our hands. You can actually update the pricing to any sport that you want. You can create passes within our platform instead of having to call or put a ticket in. So this represents a way to increase the completion time of the task while support is still available to help if needed. So if you run into a barrier, you just got to reach out to us and we can go in there and fix it up, or just make sure that everything's done correctly. So there are some help articles on how to do that, but obviously sometimes it's easier to just talk to somebody, so we are here for that. Tracking revenue in real time. Oh, sorry, go back. I wasn't quite done. Tracking revenue in real time is something that we've always had. You can see how many people are buying passes on what day. You can see their email address and their name. So gives you a lot of data. So we still have that as always. And then on the roadmap, we have a couple of cool things going on. One of them is being able to assign your own complimentary passes. So if you're hosting a tournament, big or small, if you have a decent sized staff, if you want to give the road team a login to be able to log in and not have to pay for the pay-per-view, you will start to have access to be able to make and edit those passes and assign them to folks. It's not something that's available right now. It's on the roadmap. It's something that we're targeting hopefully early next year, but roadmaps definitely can change. So bear with me on that. Another thing on the roadmap is toggling between pay-per-view and free. We have some clients that have free and pay-per-view broadcasts, maybe one sports free, one sports pay-per-view. A lot of times that'll happen with football, where charging for football just makes sense, right? It's the most valuable thing that you have, and it allows you to support your program in a certain way that other sports, can benefit from too. So we're going to give you that ability instead of us having to have it under lock and key. And the last thing is making refunds easier, speeding up that process. It's not just to save time, but it's also to reduce the number of contacts that it takes back and forth with a viewer for both us and for you. So if you are producing a stream or in charge of the communication, if a stream doesn't go right and it's pay-per-view, you get a lot of emails. So we'd like to help you and us in those scenarios. So that's kind of why we're targeting that change. Okay. All right, so this next one, this is the last Presto thing that we're going to look at. The rest of it's going to be for everybody and anyone. So pre-roll videos. Pre-roll video is one of the products that was updated and moved into our new admin side. The pre-roll video plays before the stream, so users cannot skip those. Because of that, it's a good idea to keep them short if you can, especially if you're a pay-per-view client. So again, pay-per-view, you can still advertise, but you can also point them towards fundraising, the team store, building your brand, sponsor commercials that make sense. If they're short enough, no one's going to notice them. It's pretty seamless. It just plays automatically. Your video, your stream starts playing automatically right afterwards. I do want to say that conferences can also use this. If a conference and the member, that team, both have a pre-roll, they're going to play one after another, conference and then school. So again, always shorter is better for this kind of thing. We want to get in and get out and make sure that we get the point across, but that we're not impeding the stream by too much. There's kind of a magic number, and I think it's around 10 or 15 seconds, for me at least. I think it's different for everybody. So, but the people that email you, they'll let you know. All right, so we'll go on to the next one. So want to kind of open the door and talk about creating and including valuable ads throughout events. You want to make sure that you are operating with the idea that you want those ads and you want them in the high value spots, and you want to assign value to them, and you want to sell them to sponsors, with that in mind as well. So this is kind of just part of creating the playbook. This is the first part. For every opportunity during the broadcast, we want to have graphics, overlays, commercials, pre-recorded video or audio. On the left here, we have a sponsor graphic that I made for pregame and halftime use. On the right, we've got a sample screen from Presto Stream Studio. So here you got a football game. You've got a sponsor graphic on the bottom right, conference graphic on the top right. And then on the top left, you have your automated scoreboard. So these kind of things look totally normal. As long as it's not impeding the viewing, it's going to look more professional, actually, having more stuff on the screen, as long as it's not impeding. So just want to kind of throw that out there. All right, so this is everyone's favorite part that's not a graphic designer, I imagine, content library. You need a content library. It's not ever easy to gather a bunch of usable files to put in your broadcast. It's hard to get what I need for my slideshow and to be happy with it. However, more than likely, you might be a one-man team or one-woman team making the stream, but you have maybe a whole department around you that can help. So I've written a couple examples in here about looking towards a sponsor. Usually sponsors pay to make their own commercials. If they can supply that to you, as many as they have, boom, you've got some content. If you're working with an organization, like if you're underneath NAIA, NJCAA, or a baseball league, let's say, then get some content from them as well to show at the appropriate times. So you internal marketing teams, NIL teams at the school, video production or graphic design programs. If you're a part of a university or college and you guys have that, then that could be an easy way to find people that could work to make some content for you. They've got some stuff for their portfolio. You've got some stuff for your content library that you then own. Make sure that you make that deal with them first, I assume. If you have any videographers or photographers that have visited campus, taken pictures for you guys, taken video of games before, reach out to them and see if they have some content that they could share with you that you'd be able to use. Maybe sponsorship for content would be the right move there. Creating content. I like creating content. I'm not very good at it, but I like putting things together. I personally have access to Presto Shots, which is a graphics and video editing platform that we use mostly for social media, but the files that it creates can be used within your stream as well. So it goes hand in hand with our streaming product because people always need more graphics for their stream. It has a lot of sports related graphics, so I cheat and use that most of the time. I don't think it's cheating so much as using what's available to me, right? If anyone on the athletic staff can create, if anyone has access to video editing, image editing, even slideshow editors, you can put stuff together. As long as it's high quality and full screen, when you shrink it down, it's still going to look good. So just kind of keep in mind gathering content or creating content. Still want to put it all in that content library and have it accessible for your whole team for what we're going to do next. All right, so moving on. Excuse me. All right, so we talked about a streaming playbook Josh did earlier. The streaming playbook, the idea is putting it all together. It's how you plan and execute your sponsor and ad strategy. There's two aspects. The first is ad distribution, which we see here for new and existing clients. So if you have existing sponsors, if you have existing sponsors, make sure that you reach out to them to add them into the streams. If that's not already a part of their sponsorship, that's probably the best way that they can get exposure. So be a great thing to reach out to them and include it in any sponsorship deals that you have going forward. This here is a simple tier system to show sponsors what's included in each tier. We're then going to build a run sheet off this for stream production. So I'll show you that next. This example here is for basketball, and it's going to vary by sport. Each sport has different opportunities. There may be more ad room for baseball, for instance, because there's inning breaks. There's always a standard time. Just make sure you know how much time you have in between innings before the next pitch, and then fit your time slot into there, and you'd probably be able to run a commercial every single half inning, which is about 17 of those. So that's a big number right there. The most common ways to highlight a sponsor are going to be overlays on the video that's playing, video commercials, live mentions by the broadcaster, or you can pre-record live mentions as well, just as easily. And any software would be able to support use of these things within the broadcast. Ours certainly does, and it does it in an easy and approachable way. So these are some examples right here. The keys of the game thing, I just kind of grabbed to show you, like, this is not pretty or anything, the keys of the game. No offense to ESPN in the 90s. I'm sure that's where it came from. But that's just an idea of what you could use. You could see that's something that we can all put together in the simple program right there. And then the starting five and the pregame halftime on the right there, those are both from Presto Shots. Give you an idea of just kind of like what you can make. Okay, so let's take a look at a run sheet. this is going to be, it's going to look totally overwhelming, but we're going to go over like the pregame spot and it'll make tons of sense here. So playbook includes run sheet for each sport. These can be adjusted for each game depending on what promotions and special announcements are needed as well. So you want this to be an editable item, like an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, or Google Sheets, so that you can go in there, add columns, add rows. Your priorities are going to be different at different parts of the season. Run sheets have been used for live broadcasts, like in radio and television, for forever. I mean, there's always an order of things. Either a director is shouting in someone's ear, or you have a piece of paper shouting at you and telling you what to do. We want to be able to keep things running, like the order of sponsors, when to play them, when to do the live mentions, when to play the pre-recorded audio. We want to keep things moving throughout the broadcast and find a way to spread things out so that it makes sense, right? We don't, if we have one very important sponsor and we forget that we had to do 5 commercials for them, we don't want to do 4 commercials in the second half. We want to make sure that those are spread out so that they're getting the most bang for their buck. There's going to be people that watch the first half and not the second half as well. And we want it to make sense within your broadcast. So that's what the run sheet's going to help you do. So in pregame here, you can see that what we have listed is we have the phase of the game, pregame, the timing, which is how, when-ish should it be played, right? So this is going to be up to someone's discretion that's actually running the broadcast software. But in this case, I'll walk you through it. Overlay. In the previous slide, we talked about overlays. The Platinum gets an overlay for the entire game. And then in addition to that, during pregame, we're running a gold tier overlay as well. During the intro, which is the first item that we have on the list, we're going to talk about that it's presented by the Platinum sponsor, let's say Reebok Basketball, because they just got back in the game. They're one of my sponsors on my slide there. That's only going to take about a minute. Welcome to the game, presented by Reebok Basketball. You know, we're here at such and such arena. We have these 2 teams playing. Takes about a minute. Going to kick it into commercial at that point. Full commercial break number 1. On the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a file name. So within your broadcast program, you'll be able to assign different names to everything. So I would have to do in this case is in Stream Studio, click on the scene that's called Full Break 1. It's going to play a commercial. In this case, it's a minute. So that's 2 commercials back to back. And when it's finished with that, it's going to go straight back to the normal broadcast. After that, we have listed after the national anthem, we're going to show the lineups presented by the gold sponsor. We're going to spend about a minute on that because that's about how much time we're going to have. And then after the lineups, we're going to do a live mention leading into tip-off. So this just gives whoever is running the stream, announcing it, or just putting up graphics, right? You don't actually need an announcer to do this. You can run the stream. You know, as long as the person running the stream isn't also doing the camera, this would be pretty easy to hit a couple buttons and play all these in the order that you want. So I don't want to tell you it's easy, but also it's not hard. You guys could definitely use something like this to increase the value of your streams. If you're not already using this, hopefully you guys can use 1 or 2 things that we did talk about here. Now, the playbook is pretty new for us too. We wanted to put this out to go along with this webinar. So we are going to post this as well as the next sports that are starting, and we're going to build up a roster playbook for each and every sport that we see a lot of streams for. We'll kind of start with the most popular ones first. And that'll be on help.prestosports.com in the streaming section. And it'll be called Streaming Playbook. So we should have that available pretty soon. And hopefully we can include that in any follow-ups to this webinar as well. Just throwing the marketing team under the bus, making them do work for me, you know. So again, hope you got some inspiration from this. I hope to deliver the rest of these playbooks. And obviously any questions that you guys have about these, we'll include our contact information in any follow-up here. I'd love to talk about this stuff. It's the most fun stuff that we do other than equipment. I love equipment. So I'll talk about that stuff too. And then that's kind of all I have to present here. So if I guess I'll kick it back to Josh for any Q&A, right?
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Chris. It's great information. Well, let's see. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, just hit the Q&A button, and then you'll be able to type it in there. I don't know, Chris, if you have any frequently asked questions that you normally get when you go over this stuff with clients.
I think some of the biggest questions that we have are about pay-per-view. A lot of that has to do with one-on-one conversation that I'll have with people that are running an organization. Our pay-per-view is very flexible, so we can basically support any way that someone wants to go about it. And I guess I'm being a little vague on that because everyone is so different with that. And we want to just, we try to work with you to make sure that you're offering pricing that makes sense, both for your content and then for your viewers.
So we got a question here. Basketball is a pretty mappable sport with natural breaks in the game. Do you have suggestions for ads with games that might not have as natural breaks?
Yeah, soccer comes to mind, football, what have you. The best way to go about those is to plan out live mentions. I think that you can, when the ball is in the midfield, it's going to take a couple seconds for it to get on goal. So if you turn it over and there's an opportunity, like if you turn it over in the midfield, usually you're going to wait for your help to come, right? We're going very sports specific here, but there's a couple seconds in there. Live mentions are between 10 and 15 seconds. And when you do the live mention, you just basically, you can have a hotkey or you can click on the specific file that you want in the program, and it'll show the sponsor's logo or something like that. You can choose how you want to do it or remove a GIF. I think that that's the best way to address it, because you definitely don't want to interrupt the action with a video. And then halftime would be a good time for pre-recorded video. We also want, if you saw, I think I gave between 7 and 10 minutes break, just straight up break time where there's a halftime graphic up. So we also want to make sure that the announcer and the stream producer has all the time they need for any bio breaks or get a drink of water or whatever. So halftime is a good time for breaks. And then we want to get as many live mentions in as we can. Ooh,
All right.
John's question real quick there.
Yep. Can you put sponsorship information on the score bug?
So you can't put it directly into it right now. It is something that we want to do. It's something that we're downright determined to do. We'd like to be able to add a place where you can upload a logo and have it automatically appear. And then you can also choose what side, left or right that it would be on. It's going to take a little while to get to that point. In the meantime, what you can do is you can actually put an overlay right next to it. The score bug itself doesn't change shape or size. So you can put basically put your own sponsor right next to the score bug and then just adjust its size so it looks like it's connected. I know that sounds a little bit janky, but to be honest, it's going to look just as good as if I made a complex system to do it too. That said, we want to make that complex system. We just have to make sure it's easy enough that it's not, it has to be easier than the overlay thing that I had mentioned. So.
Okay. Let's see. Can you give some examples of customers who are doing this best practices well?
Yeah. we have a couple baseball leagues that we work with. One baseball league that we work with that is free to view. They're actually free with registration. So if you want to see what that looks like, they're called the Northwoods League. They are a summer collegiate baseball league. If you look up the northwoodsleague.com, make sure it's baseball league up in the upper Midwest. Googling has its pitfalls. They're a great example of filling the time in between innings. They, across the board, do a really good job at each city, and they have about 20 teams. You'll see standardized content, and then each team has different content as well. They are team-based in their approach. Each team decides how they want to do things. In another case, there's the Chillicothe Paints are in the Prospect League. They're with us as well. Actually, I spoke to Jacob Wise over there in preparing for this webinar here. And that was kind of the inspiration of the playbook itself. So I got a lot of information from him and how they do things and how they fill time. One of the biggest things that his advice was to make sure that you're filling every possible spot that you can. So that was some of the wisdom that I got from their approach. They also are team-based, right? So they're a league of teams. Each team decides how they're going to do it. His team, Chillicothe Paints, are not to say aggressive, but they look for the opportunities, and they really want to give the sponsors their money's worth and attract more. So,
Right. And I do want to add that, doing this well, it doesn't rely on just you as the cameraman or the athletic director or, the SID. Work with your marketing department there at either your school or your organization. They probably already have sponsors. Work with them and say, hey, we can also offer these ad spaces within our stream. And let them make the calls, let them find the sponsors and get the graphics and get the logos and things to add in there. All right. How do you handle if ESPN Plus wants to pick up a broadcast from a team that uses Presto?
Yeah, we could talk about that. I mean, this does happen for sure, mostly with tournaments. So there's two ways really. So one is that we just don't carry the game, right? If we normally handle the United States broadcast for a school or league, and they effectively sell a game to ESPN or a different provider, if there's exclusivity, then we can't broadcast it, right? And that's really up to the client how they want to deal with that, and we've seen that. So the other way is that usually you have to have this set up ahead of time so that the fans know what to expect. But in the past, we've had clients that have certain game, like one game a week will go to NESN up in New England, right? So NESN will carry it, so they will actually do the geo-block just for the Northeast. So they can actually identify certain states in the Northeast to block for NESN. And then if it's ESPN and you do it quite often, you would set up geo-blocking to block the United States, but allow people from outside the country to still watch. So we have a couple hockey leagues that do this. They're signed on to ESPN during the season. For their international broadcast, they have to go to the Presto video player, and then it'll just double check their location real quick and allow them in. And that's the two ways. One is do nothing and just don't broadcast it. The other way is use geo-blocking, have a plan in place ahead of time. And hopefully that's the way we always want to do it.
Yeah, and I would definitely check with your conference or organization too on that. Usually if ESPN Plus is looking to pick up a broadcast, they don't just go to the school itself. Usually it's conference based or organization based. So that guidance may come more from the organization or the conference. I would definitely ask them the same question because it's by contract. So whereas, as Chris said, maybe you can broadcast internationally, or and then you can use geo-blocking. But in the contract, it could also be that you can't broadcast. Or you may be able to add ads, you may not be able to add ads. It's really based on the contract that you have with ESPN, and it's best to go to the organization or the conference that is working with that. All right. Well, there are no other questions. I hope you enjoyed this. There will be a follow-up email with a link to the recording. And if you have any questions, please reach out. We're available. Reach out to Chris, reach out to support with any questions. And here soon on our help center, you will start to see our playbooks pop up on there. Definitely use those. It's a great asset to have and a great start to have your ads and help your sponsors. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great day, and thanks for joining us.